The pink balloons were STA rooting to lose their helium. I noticed because I was STA ring at the floor, counting the tiny cracks in the marbly tiles while my knees screamed against the cold stone. 37 cracks, so FAR 38. My grandmother's voice kept drilling into the back of my skull. Shah RP and merciless. Apologize. On your knees, I said. You think you can just waltz in here and shame this family? I kept my spine straight. If I was going to kneel, I was going to kneel like a queen, not a beg-ar. My cousin Lily sat on the beige sofa like she was posing for a maternity ad, one hand pressed against her 7-month bump, the other delicately holding a glass of sparkling water. She had that little smile on her face, the one she'd been perfecting since we were kids. The one that said, I win, you lose. Auntie, please don't be so hot RSH, Lily said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. It's my baby shower. Let's not make a scene. I almost laughed. Almost. She'd been the one who STA root whispering about my husband's job the second I walked through the door. Oh, Emily, you came in that CAR. The paint's peeling, sweetie. You really should let my husband's detailer take a look. Her husband Mark, the orthopedic surgeon with the perfect hair and the perfect smile and the perfect credit score, had just stood there nodding like a bobblehead. My mother stood near the windows, twisting a paper napkin into shreds. Her face was pale, her eyes wet, but she didn't come to me. She never did. Not when Grandma decided I was the family disgrace, not when I married a mechanic, not when I moved out of the big house and into a 2-bedroom APA meant above a GA rage. My father had his phone out, scrolling, not looking at me. That was his superpower. Looking away. Ma lying beneath us. Grandma was still going, her cane tapping the floor for emphasis. Your sister Marai's a doctor, your cousin Marai's a banker, and you pick up some grease monkey from a repair shop and expect us to applaud. The room went quiet. About 40 relatives, all pretending to be interested in their finger sandwiches and fruit ta RTS, but I could feel their eyes. They were waiting. They'd been waiting for this moment since I was 19 and announced I wasn't going to law school. I opened my mouth to say something, anything, but my voice stuck in my throat like a fishbone. It wasn't that I was ashamed of my husband. It was that I was tired. Bone tired of defending the man who woke up at 5 every morning to make me coffee, who came home with grease under his nails and still kissed my forehead, who gave me his last $20 RS when I forgot my wallet at the grocery store. Then I heard footsteps behind me. Heavy, steady, the kind that didn't hurry for anyone. Grandma. His voice was calm. So calm that for a second, even she stopped talking. Zhou Chen crouched down beside me, his worn-out jeans brushing against my skirt. He smelled like motor oil and the cheap soap we bought in bulk, and his hands were rough from 1,000 busted transmissions and seized engines. But when he touched my elbow, it was like the only RM thing in the whole cold room. Get up, he said softly. Your knees, going to bruise. I shook my head. She'll cut Mom off. You know she will. Grandma had a certain kind of power in this family. She owned the house we were standing in, the company my father worked for, the CAR my mother drove. 3 generations of Chen family money, and she pulled the strings like a puppeteer. If she said my mother was out of the will, that was it. 20 years of playing the dutiful daughter-in-law. Gone. You think I CA about her money? Zhou Chen's voice was rely above a whisper. Meant only for me. I know you don't. But Mom does. He sighed. Then he did something that made the room suck in a collective breath. He stood up, pulled out his phone, and walked over to the priest who'd been hired to bless the baby. The priest was a dapper old man with wire-rimmed glasses, sipping punch in the corner like he was at a Sunday picnic. Father, Zhou Chen said loud enough for everyone to hear, can I show you something? The priest adjusted his glasses and took the phone with a polite smile. Then his smile froze. His hand STA root shaking. The phone wobbled in his grip like a leaf in a storm, and his face went from pink to paper white to deep, blotchy red. What in the world is that? Lily's husband Mark pushed 4-way RD, his doctor instinct kicking in. Father, you all right? Do you need to sit down? The priest didn't answer. He made a sound, a terrible, wet sound that turned into a sob. A grown man in a clerical collar TRS rolling down his cheeks like he'd just witnessed a miracle or a tragedy or both. It's her, the priest choked out. Our Lady of Sorrows. The painting that was stolen from the cathedral in Florence, 30 years ago. The one they said was destroyed. His knees buckled. Mark caught him, but the priest was still staring at Zhou Chen's phone screen, crying openly now, his glasses fogging up. Where did you find this? Who restored her? Zhou Chen took his phone back, slipped it into his pocket, and returned to my side. He didn't make a speech. He didn't point fingers. He just knelt down next to me again, one knee on the cold marble, and took my hand. Zhou Chen, what did you just show him? I asked, my voice coming out thin. Remember how I told you I spent 2 years in Italy after high school, working in a restoration studio? You said you were washing dishes. I was washing dishes. And I was Liao Runing. He looked at me, and for the first time, I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Not pride, not smugness, just a quiet certainty. Last month, I finished a project for the Vatican. They called it the most significant restoration of the decade. The room exploded. Lily stood up so fast her water glass tipped over, soaking the white tablecloth. Mark was still half holding the priest, who had gone to his knees now, praying in rapid-fire Latin. My mother dropped her shredded napkin. My father finally looked up from his phone, his mouth hanging open like a fish. Grandma's cane clattered to the floor. She grabbed the arm of the sofa for support, her face contorting between shock and rage. You're lying, she spat.
You.
Some nobody from a GA rage. You expect me to believe this? Zhou Chen pulled something else out of his pocket. A laminated card with gold lettering, a photograph, and a wax seal. He handed it to me first. I looked at it, my brain struggling to process the words. Asterisk Pontifical Commission for the Cultural Heritage of the Church. Certificate of Authentication. Restoration of the Sorrowful Madonna, attributed to Giovanni Battista Salvi de Sassoferrato, completed under the supervision of Zhou Chen, Master Restorer. Asterisk, Emily, he said, squeezing my hand. I was going to tell you tonight. Over the noodles you like. I just didn't want you to see me differently. I read at him. The man who changed my oil, who fixed my mom's broken washing machine, who drove a junker with duct tape on the bumper. The man who had pieces of the Vatican in his calloused, grease-stained fingers. I'm going to kill you, I whispered. I'm going to kill you for not telling me. Only after we go home. I bought that ice cream you like. Lily's voice cut through like a knife. This is ridiculous. He's a mechanic. Show me the proof. Show me the paperwork. Show me something real. Zhou Chen looked at her, and his face was still that same calm mask. The original paperwork is with the Vatican archives. But if you want to see the painting, it's on display in Rome right now. The Pope himself did the unveiling. That landed like a bomb. The Pope. My husband. The Pope, Mark had recovered enough to stand, his perfect hair still perfect but his face confused. Why would you even RRY her if you're... He gestured vaguely, like he couldn't find the right word. If you're someone, because she's the one who called me at midnight when my sister was in the hospital, and she didn't ask what I was worth. She asked if I'd eaten. Zhou Chen's voice hardened, just a fraction. Because she's the one who didn't see I came home smelling like gasoline. Because she saw me, and she stayed. My mother was crying openly now, but she was also pushing through the crowd. Tawa, me. Stand up, Emily. Please, baby, stand up. Grandma's face had gone from red to purple. She opened her mouth to say something, probably something vicious, but the priest cut her off. He had climbed to his feet, his eyes still wet, and he walked over to Zhou Chen like he was approaching a holy relic. Master Restorer, he said, his voice reverent. May I shake your hand? Zhou Chen shrugged and extended his right palm. The priest took it with both of his, bowed his head, and kissed the knuckles. The same knuckles that had oil embedded in the cuticles. I've waited 30 years to see her face restored, the priest whispered. 30 years of praying. And God sent you. A mechanic in a GA rage. God has a sense of humor. Grandma made a strangled sound. Get out, she led, pointing at Zhou Chen. You and your circus. Get out of my house. Actually, I said, and my voice came out stronger than I expected. I got to my feet, wincing at the pins and needles in my legs. I think we'll go. On our own. This time. I looked at Lily, who had sunk back onto the sofa, her perfect bump suddenly looking less like a blessing and more like a weight. She was blinking fast, TRS and masque, RA mixing on her cheeks. MARK was trying to comfort her, but his eyes kept rooting to Zhou Chen's pocket, where the gold embossed CARD had to sape red. My mother will call you, I said to Grandma, when she's ready to talk to me. Not before. Mom was clutching my arm, her nails digging in. I'm coming with you, she said, her voice cracking. Right now. I'm leaving with you. Dad made a noise like he wanted to protest, but Mom shot him a look that I'd never seen on her face before. It was fierce. It was final. Robert, you can come, or you can stay. But I'm going with my daughter. Zhou Chen picked up my bag from where I dropped it near the door. He put his free hand on the small of my back, that familiar, pressure that always steadied me. Your CAR, I asked him, my voice wobbling, running fine. I fixed the timing belt last weekend. Outside, the sun was blinding. The parking lot was full of BMWs and Mercedes, and in the middle sat our beige sedan with the mismatched hubcaps. Zhou Chen opened the passenger door for me, and I climbed in. Mom got in the back seat, her hands still trembling. Dad had followed us halfway to the CAR, then stopped, looking lost. Get in, Dad, I said through the window. He hesitated. Then, slowly, he walked around and got in next to Mom. Zhou Chen rued the engine. The old CAR coughed and rattled, but it ran. It always ran. He pulled out of the driveway, leaving behind the pink balloons and the spilled punch and the crying priest and the family who'd never believed in us. How long have you been keeping this? I asked, watching the house shrink in the side mirror. Since before we met, technically. I just never had a reason to bring it up. You restored a painting for the Pope. I restored a painting for myself. The Pope just happened to like it. Mom leaned four-way RD from the back seat. Zhou Chen, a Ryu really? A Ryu, a master restorer. I'm a mechanic who knows how to fix things, Mom. Same skill set, different materials. He glanced in the REA review mirror and smiled. My hands know how to mend. That's all. I looked at his hands on the steering wheel. The knuckles were SCA red, the nails short and rough. They'd changed the oil in this CAR 100 times. They'd changed my life. To, I love you, I said. It came out small, but he heard it. I know. I love you too. He reached over and found my fingers, lacing them together over the hair shift. Now, about that ice cream. You still want the mint chocolate chip? I laughed. I couldn't help it. Yeah. Extra sprinkles. The sprinkles a non-negotiable, he agreed. You want to stop at the place on 7th or the one by the Park? The Park one. They have the good cones. Mom was crying again, but she was also laughing. Dad had his phone out, but this time he was using it to take a picture of us through the REA review mirror. The first family photo in months that wasn't staged at some party. And somewhere behind us, in a house full of pink balloons and shattered expectations, a priest was still crying over a painting he'd only seen on a phone screen. But we were already gone, driving Tawa RD the Park and the ice cream, and whatever came next. My knees were bruised purple. My head was spinning. My whole world had just tilted sideways. But I was holding my husband's hand, and that was enough. The ice cream shop on 7th Avenue had pink and white striped awnings, the kind that made you feel like you'd stepped into a post-gay road. We sat at a wobbly metal table, my mother dabbing at her eyes with a napkin, my father STA ring at his cone like it held the secrets to the universe, and me watching Zhou Chen ruefully peel the paper off his strawberry SCO. P like it was a sacred ritual. I hadn't stopped shaking. It was a low hum under my skin, the kind of adrenaline crash that makes you feel hollow and full all at once. Every time I looked at my husband's face, I saw a stranger we-ring his features. The same SCA are above his left eyebrow from when a transmission slipped. The same crooked front tooth from when he fell off his bike at 12. But also someone else. Someone who worked for the Vatican. Someone who fixed things that had been broken for 3 decades. Your STA ring, he said without looking up. I'm processing. Take your time. I'm not going anywhere. My mother Cleo read her throat, her voice still wobbly. Zhou Chun, I need you to understand something. I've said some things over the ARS. About your job. About your situation. I wasn't kind. He finally looked up, his spoon pausing midair. Mom, you gave us your wedding china when we moved into the apartment. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do any of it. That was just plates. That was you saying you approved. That was everything. He set down his spoon and leaned four-way RD, his elbows on the sticky table. I know what people think when they see my hands. I've known it since I was 17, working in that shop after school, while everyone else was playing sports. I never needed them to understand. I only needed you. My mother's face crumpled, but this time it wasn't grief. It was relief. She grabbed his hand across the table, the same hand the priest had kissed, and squeezed it like she was hanging on to the edge of a cliff. My father had been quiet, the way he always was when emotions got too big for the room. But now he spoke, his voice gruff and low. The Vatican. That's not a small thing, son. I didn't do it for the recognition. I did it because the painting had been in pieces for 30 years. Someone needed to put her back together. He shrugged, a quick lift of his shoulders. I was just the one who was available. No, I said, shaking my head. No, you don't get to be modest about this. You restored a painting for the Pope. A lost masterpiece. That's not a random Tuesday. Tuesday was when I fixed Mrs. Henderson's transmission. That was a hard-rider job, actually. The bolts were rusted shut. I wanted to throw my ice cream at him. Instead, I laughed, the kind of laugh that came from somewhere deep and tired and relieved. You're impossible. And yet you ma ride me. Clea RLY a lapse in judgment. Mom let go of his hand and picked up her cone, her first bite tentative. So what happens now? Your grandmother, she's not going to let this go. You know that, right? She'll find a way to make this about her, to twist it into something ugly. Zhou Chun leaned back in his chair, the metal screeching against the concrete. Let her twist. We're going home, we're going to sleep, and tomorrow I'm going to open the shop like I do every day. Nothing changes. Everything changes, I corrected. You can't pretend this is normal. Watch me. But I saw something flicker in his eyes, a shadow I didn't understand.
He was hiding something.
I'd known him for 3 years, Maride for 1, and I could read the tightness around his mouth like a book. What else? I asked. There's something you're not saying. He looked at me, and for a second he was the mechanic again, the one who didn't know how to express things in words, so he expressed them in action. Then he sighed and set down his cone. The Vatican offered me a permanent position.
Full-time.
They want me in Florence. The table went silent. A bird pecked at a fallen crumb. NEA are my mother's feet. The guy behind the counter was singing along to the radio. Oblivious. Florence. I repeated. Everything, Emily. It would be everything. A proper workshop, resources, a team. I'd be working with materials I've only ever dreamed of touching. My mother's cone was melting, dripping pink onto the table. She didn't notice. When I asked, I told them I'd think about it. I've been thinking about it for 6 months. I just didn't know how to bring it up. 6 months. He'd been CA-ring this for 6 months, through our anniversary, through Christmas, through the night we stayed up talking about having kids, and the morning he made pancakes shaped like RTS. He'd been making decisions about our future without telling me. I don't want to go, he said quickly, reading the expression on my face. That's why I didn't say anything. I already decided. I'm not going. But you wanted to. Wanting isn't the same as doing. I wanted to be a race CAR driver when I was 8. Look how that turned out. This isn't the same, Zhou Chun. This is your CA rear. Your life's work. My life's work is fixing things that matter to me. That's you. That's this. He gestured vaguely at the ice cream shop, at my parents, at the parking lot where our beige sedan sat with its mismatched hubcaps. This is where I belong. I looked at my father. He was STA ring at Zhou Chun with an expression I hadn't seen on his face in years.
It was respect.
Maybe even awe. Son, my dad said slowly, if you have a calling, you shouldn't ignore it. I've ignored plenty of things in my life. I've hidden behind my wife, behind my job, behind my phone. It doesn't lead anywhere good. Dad, I'm serious. If I had a chance to do something that mattered, something that would outlast me, I would take it. I'd find a way to make it work with the people I loved. He looked at my mother, and for a moment he was the man she married, not the man who checked out at parties. I should have taken more chances. You don't want to be me, Zhou Chen. You don't want to wake up at 50 and wonder what you settled for. The air between them was heavy. My mother reached over and put her hand on my father's, a small gesture, but it said everything. You're not going to lose us, I said, and I didn't realize I was speaking until the words were out. If you go to Florence, you don't lose us. We'd come with you. Zhou Chen shook his head.
Your job.
Your friends. Your family. You'd leave all of that for a city you've never seen. I'd leave all of that for a man who knelt on marbly floors to protect me.
Yes.
In a heartbeat. He looked at me, and I saw TRS in his eyes, just a glisten, the same kind that Ape read when he watched sappy commercials. He blinked them away. I'll think about it, he said. That's the best I can give you right now. That's enough. We finished our ice cream in something that felt almost like peace. My mother asked about Florence, about the weather, about the food. My father offered to help pay for moving costs if it came to that. The world had shifted, but we were shifting with it. The ride home was quiet. My parents got out at their house, a modest colonial with chipped paint and a dying hydrangea bush. My mother hugged me so tight I could feel her heartbeat. She hugged Zhou Chen too, and this time she held on like she was memorizing the shape of him. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I've always been proud of you, even when I didn't say it. He kissed her cheek. I know, Mom. I always knew. In the CAR, driving Tawa RDRAP meant I watched the streetlights blur past. The city smelled like summer, like hot asphalt and blooming jasmine and the faint tang of the river. Can we talk about the painting? I asked. What about it? How did you get involved? He was quiet for a moment, shifting Hea RS as we climbed a hill. I was washing dishes at a trattoria, the Duomo, and a professor from the Restoration Institute came in every night. He always ordered the same thing, and I always brought him extra bread. We root talking. He found out I could draw, that I was good with my hands, that I understood how things fit together. He offered me an apprenticeship. I took it. That's it, that's the whole story, not quite. He pulled into the parking lot of our building, the one with the flickering light and the graffiti on the dumpster. He died 3 years later. Lung cancer. On his deathbed, he made me promise to finish the Madonna. He said she'd been waiting for the right person, and I was it. Zhou Chen. I don't know why he picked me. I was just some kid with a fake ID and an accent. But he saw something. And I spent a decade trying to prove him right. The CAR was stopped, the engine idling. I unfastened my seatbelt and leaned over, resting my forehead against his shoulder. He smelled like ice cream and gasoline and the cheap deodorant he'd been using since we met. He was right, I said. About you. He saw exactly who you were. I'm just a guy who likes to fix things. Yeah, that's what makes you extraordinary. We went upstairs to our apartment, the one with the leaking faucet and the crooked blinds and the bed that sagged on the left side. He made me tea, the kind with the floral taste I pretended to like. I watched him move through the kitchen, still in his work clothes, his hands steady and sure. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A message from Lily, no punctuation, just a series of crying emojis and a single sentence. Grandma had a stroke. I read it 3 times. Then I turned the phone over and went back to the kitchen, where Zhou Chen was fixing the sink that had been dripping for 2 weeks. Emily, he said, looking up. What's wrong? I shook my head. Nothing. It can wait. You're lying. It can wait, I repeated. This can't. I pulled him away from the sink, away from the wrench and the plastic pipe, and I held him the way he'd held me in that cold room. His heart was beating steady under my EAR, the same rhythm it always had. Tomorrow there would be calls to make and decisions to reach, and a grandmother who might not wake up. Tomorrow there would be family and guilt, and the kind of mess that came with loving people who didn't know how to love you back. But tonight, there was just us, fixing what we could, one piece at a time. The hospital waiting room smelled like antiseptic and stale coffee, two scents that had become intimately familiar over the past 12 hours. I sat in a plastic chair that had been molded to someone else's body, watching the clock tick past 6 in the morning. Zhou Chun was asleep with his head on my shoulder, his breathing slow and even, his hand still loosely holding mine even in unconsciousness. My mother was pacing the vending machines, her footsteps a steady rhythm against the linoleum. My father had gone to get more coffee, the 6th cup of the night, as if caffeine could somehow undo what had happened. Emily. My mother's voice was Hoa RSE. You should sleep too. I can't. You can't keep running on nothing. I'm not running on nothing. I'm running on sheer, unadulterated spite. She almost smiled. Almost. The stroke had been massive. That's what the doctors said, in their CA refill, clinical language. Massive. The word hung in the air like a guillotine blade, and none of us wanted to be the one to ask what it meant. Grandma was in surgery. Then she was out of surgery. Then she was in the ICU, surrounded by machines that beeped and whirred, doing the work her body couldn't. We'd been waiting for updates, for news, for anything that might tell us what came next. Lily and Mark were on the other side of the waiting room, sitting in a tight little cluster of misery. Lily had stopped crying about 2 hours ago. Now she just read at the wall, her hand pressed against her belly, like she was trying to shield the baby from all of this. Mark had his arm around her, but his eyes kept drifting to his phone. He was a doctor. He'd seen this before. He knew what massive meant. Zhou Chun stirred beside me, his eyelashes brushing my neck. Any news? No.
Dad went for coffee.
Mom's pacing. He sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes with the heel of his hand. His hair was sticking up in 10 different directions, and there was a crease on his cheek from my sweater. He looked like a disaster. He also looked like the only solid thing in the room. Have you eaten anything? I'm not hungry. You need to eat. Zhou Chun, I don't. I'll find you a granola bar. Or a stale bagel. Hospital food is the universal constant. There's always something. He stood up, stretching his arms over his head until his back cracked, and walked toward the vending machines. My mother intercepted him, saying something I couldn't hear, and he nodded and patted her shoulder. I watched him go, and felt the familiar squeeze in my chest. He wasn't doing anything extraordinary. He was just being him. And somehow, that was everything. That Lily's voice cut through my thoughts, thin and brittle. Emily, can I talk to you? I turned. She was standing in front of me, her hands folded over her bump like a shield. Her mascara had run hours ago, leaving dark streaks on her cheeks. She looked young, suddenly. Younger than me. Younger than she had any right to be. Okay, I said. She sat down in the chair Zhou Chun had just vacated, leaving a CA refill distance between us. I know you hate me. I don't hate you, Lily. I would hate me. If I were you, I would hate me.
I was horrible to you. To him.
She gestured vaguely toward the vending machines. I let Grandma say those things, and I didn't stop her. I even helped her along. I wanted to see you hurt. Why? She looked at her hands. Her nails were perfectly manicured, French tips, the kind that cost $80 and took 2 hours. Because you were always the one everyone loved. Mom and Dad, your parents, all the aunts. You were the golden girl. And I was just the other one. Is that what you think? I know that's what happened. You got the good grades, and the nice boyfriend, and the easy smile. I had to fight for everything. Every compliment, every ounce of approval. I had to earn it. You just got it. I wanted to argue. I wanted to tell her about the nights I spent crying over calculus homework, about the months I spent trying to get my parents to notice I was struggling, about the way my grandmother's approval had always felt like a trap, not a gift. But I looked at her face, raw and open, and I realized she wasn't asking me to argue. She was asking me to understand. You think I had it easy, I said slowly. You think I was handed everything. Weren't you? No, Lily. I just Leah Rened to fake it better than you. She blinked. What? Grandma never loved me. She loved the idea of me. The perfect granddaughter who would ROI a doctor and give her great-grandchildren and make her look good at bridge club. When I chose something else, she didn't love me anymore. That's not love. That's a transaction. Lily's mouth opened, then closed. She looked like I'd just told her the sky was made of cotton candy. I thought. She shook her head. I thought you were the favorite. The favorite doesn't get kicked out of family gatherings. The favorite doesn't get screamed at in front of 40 people because they ride a mechanic. I leaned forward, lowering my voice. We're the same, Lily. We both wanted her approval, and we both destroyed ourselves trying to get it. The only difference is I gave up trying. You haven't. She flinched, and I knew I'd hit a nerve. Mark Ape read at her side, a cup of something in his hand. Lily, come sit down. The doctor should be here soon. Give us a minute, Mark. I just think. Mark. Please. He hesitated, then nodded and retreated back to his corner. Lily took a shaky breath. If Grandma doesn't wake up, don't do that. Don't RT talking like she's already gone. Emily, you saw her. She was purple. Her face was purple. That's not something you come back from. I didn't have an answer for that. I knew the statistics. I knew the survival rates for massive strokes in women over 70. But I also knew my grandmother, and if there was one thing she'd never done, it was go quietly. Let's wait and see, I said. That's all we can do. Zhou Chen came back with a sad-looking granola bar and a bottle of water. He handed them to me, then nodded at Lily. You okay? I'm fine, Lily said, but her voice was watery. Would you like some coffee? The machine's not terrible, relatively speaking. She looked at me, then back at him. I don't really do coffee. The baby. Fair enough. They have decaf tea, I think. It's in a little packet, but it's not the worst thing in the world. He wasn't being kind. He was being himself, the same self who fixed Mrs. Henderson's transmission and gave her a discount because she was on a fixed income, the same self who helped the neighbor's kid with his science project when he didn't know a thing about volcanoes. He couldn't help it. He saw broken things and he fixed them. Lily got up and followed him to the vending machines. I watched them go, two people from opposite sides of a fault line, navigating a neutral ground. My mother sat down next to me, her hand on my knee. That was good of him. He's good. He doesn't know how not to be. Your grandmother didn't deserve him. Or you. Probably not. But she's still family. Is she? My mother's voice was unexpected. Emily, that woman made you kneel on a marble floor in front of everyone we know. She said things to you that I would never repeat in polite company. She threatened to cut me off if I didn't play along. Is that family? Mom, I'm asking because I need to know. I've spent 40 years being afraid of her. 40 years of biting my tongue and keeping my head down and pretending I was grateful for everything she gave us. And she broke something in me. In all of us. And I don't know if I can put it back together. She was crying, but silently, the way she always did. Tears sliding down her cheeks without any sound. I'm sorry, she whispered. I should have protected you. I should have stood up when she made you kneel. I should have. Mom, stop. I grabbed her hand. You did what you had to do to survive. I'm not mad at you. I'm not. You should be. I'm not. And I'm not going to be. That's not what this family needs right now. More anger. More resentment. We have enough of that to last a lifetime. She squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. When did you get so wise? When I'm alright, a mechanic who taught me that some things can be fixed if you just enough to try. The doctor came out 15 minutes later. He was a young guy, tired eyes, the kind of exhaustion that came from being on call for too many hours. He looked at our expectant faces and gave us the news. She's stable. The surgery went as well as we could hope. She'll have some deficits. Speech, probably. Movement on the right side. But she's alive. Lily let out a sound, Pa-RT sob and Pa-RT laugh. MARK caught her, steadying her as her knees buckled. My mother covered her face with her hands and cried openly, the first real emotion I'd seen from her in years. My father put his arm around her and she didn't push him away. When can we see her? I asked. One at a time for now. She's still sedated. But she might be able to hear you. The doctor looked at me, then at Zhou Chen. You were the one who stayed on the phone with the paramedics. You gave them accurate information about her medications and her medical history. That helped. Zhou Chen shrugged. I just answered their questions. You answered them calmly. In a crisis. That's not nothing. It was nothing, Zhou Chen said, but his ARS were red, the way they got when he was rast. I stood up, steadying myself on his ARM. I'll go first. But after me, Lily should go. She's been a wreck all night. Lily looked at me, surprised. You do that because I want you to see her before they get her settled. Because she's your grandmother too, and you deserve to have your turn. She didn't say anything, but she nodded, and I saw her shoulders drop an inch, as if a weight she'd been carrying for years had shifted just a little. The ICU was a sterile, humming world of beeping monitors and dim lights. Grandma was hooked up to a dozen machines, her face slack and gray, the right side of her body unmoving under the thin white sheet. She looked small. That was the thing that shocked me most. The woman who had filled every room with her presence, who had bullied and scolded and controlled every aspect of our lives, was just a tiny figure in a hospital bed. I pulled up a chair and sat close to her, my hand hovering over hers but not quite touching. Grandma, I said softly. It's Emily. I don't know if you can hear me. The doctor says you might be able to, so I'm going to talk and you're going to listen. The monitors beeped. The ventilator hissed. Here's the thing. I continued. I'm not going to forgive you for what you did.
Not yet.
Maybe not ever. But I'm not going to hate you either. Because hating you would be giving you power over me, and I'm done with that. I paused, watching her chest rise and fall with the machine's rhythm. Zhou Chen is a good man. The best man I've ever known. And I don't see if you approve of him or not. I don't need your approval. I never did. Her hand twitched. Just a tiny movement, just a flutter of muscle under the papery skin. I wasn't sure if it was meaningful or if it was just a reflex. I'm not here to punish you, I said. I'm here because you're family, and family shows up. Even when it's hard. Even when they've been awful. That's what I learned from my husband. He taught me that broken things don't stop being valuable. They just need the right person to see enough to fix them. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the exhaustion in every bone. The sun was rooting to rise outside the small window, painting the room in shades of gold and pink. I hope you get better, Grandma. I really do, because I want you to see who I become. I want you to see that I didn't need your love to be whole.
I want you to see that you were wrong about me.
About us. The machine beeped. The ventilator hissed. I got up and walked out of the room, leaving her to her machines and her recovery and the long, hard road ahead. Lily was waiting in the hall, pale and trembling. Was she awake? No. But I think she heard me. What did you say? Everything I've been holding back for 30 years. I smiled and it felt good. So good it hurt. It was the most honest conversation I've ever had with her. Lily's eyes went wide. You didn't. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just told her the truth. I squeezed her arm, gentle and firm. Now it's your turn. Go in and say what you need to say. Don't hold back. She deserves to hear it. Lily swallowed hard, then nodded and walked into the room, her steps hesitant but determined. Zhou Chen read beside me, his hand finding mine. How are you? I'm good. I think I'm actually good. One of us should be. We can be together. I leaned against him, letting his RMTH seep into my tired bones. That's the deal. We're broken together, and we fix each other. That's a pretty good deal, he said. I know. That's why I'm alright you. He kissed the top of my head, and we stood there in the quiet hospital hall, watching the sun climb higher and waiting for whatever came next. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of hospital visits and physical therapy sessions, and the slow, grinding work of watching someone our end to speak again. Grandma was making progress, the doctor said. She could move her right hand now, just ba rely, and she'd sta root forming words. Though they came out slurred and halting, I went to see her every day. Not out of obligation, not out of guilt, but because I'd meant what I said in that ICU room. She was family, and family showed up. Lily went too most days. She'd sta root sitting with me in the waiting room, her bump growing rounder by the week, our conversations moving from awkward RD to easy to something that almost felt like friendship.
We didn't talk about the past.
We talked about the future, about what the baby would be like, about whether she'd inherit MARK's perfect hair or Lily's stubborn streak. I hope she gets your stubbornness, I told her one afternoon. That's what's going to get her through life. Lily laughed, the first real laugh I'd heard from her in years. You think being stubborn is a good thing? It's the only thing that's kept this family from falling apart. You and me and Mom, we're all stubborn. We just didn't know how to use it right. That afternoon, I went to see Grandma alone. She was sitting up in bed, her left hand wrapped around a cup of water, her right hand limp at her side. Her hair was white and thin, and her face was lined with the effort of recovery. Emily, she said. The word came out slow, deliberate, like each syllable cost her something. Grandma, you're looking better today. But there was almost a smile on her lips. I look like a wet cat. You look like someone who's fighting. That's what matters. She set down the cup, her left hand trembling slightly. The priest came to see me, the one from the Parudi. He rode. He told me about the painting, about your husband. I waited. There was something in her eyes, something I couldn't quite read. He showed me pictures on his phone, the before and after. I couldn't see it very well, my eyes are bad, but I could see enough. She paused, struggling to find the words. He told me there are only a few people in the world who can do what your husband does, that it's a gift from God. Zhou Chen would say it's just practice. Your husband is too humble for his own good. Grandma looked down at her hands, the one that worked and the one that didn't. I spent so many years thinking I knew what mattered. Money, status, the right family name, and I missed the one thing that actually counted. Grandma, I was wrong about him, Emily.
I was wrong about you.
And I was wrong about what makes someone worthy of respect. I sat down in the chair beside her bed, not sure what to say. This was new territory. Grandma admitting she was wrong was like the sun deciding to rise in the west. Lily told me about your conversation in the waiting room. I said briefly. She said you called her. Grandma nodded, the movement slow and jerky. I called her to apologize for all the ARS of making her feel like she wasn't good enough. I thought I was pushing her to do better. I was just pushing her away. And she forgave you. She's working on it. That's more than I deserve. Grandma looked at me, and her eyes were wet. I have a lot of working on it to do. I reached over and took her good hand. It was cold, the skin loose and papery. You're still here. That's a start. That evening, I came home to our apartment and found Zhou Chen packing boxes. California Redboe Road boxes, the kind you got from the grocery store, filled with our books and our dishes and the little knickknacks we'd collected over 3 hours of mariage. What are you doing? I asked, dropping my bag by the door. Packing. He didn't look up from the box he was taping shut. I called the Vatican. I told them I'd take the position. The words hit me like a wave. I'd known this was coming. We talked about it, late at night, with the city lights flickering through the blinds. But hearing him say it out loud made it real. Okay, I said. Okay, that's good. That's what you wanted.
No.
He stood up, brushing dust off his jeans. It's what we decided. Together. Remember? I did remember. We'd sat on the floor of the living room, the same floor where he'd knelt with me at the baby shower, and we'd made a list. Pros and cons. Florence versus staying. In the end, the pros had won by a landslide. Are you sure? I asked. Because if you're doing this for me, I'm doing this for us. He walked over and took my hands, his thumbs rubbing circles on my palms. I've spent my whole life being afraid of the big things. Afraid of leaving my city, afraid of failing, afraid of being seen as someone who didn't belong. I'm not afraid anymore. Not when you're with me. I wrapped my arms around his neck, pressing my face into his shoulder. I'm so proud of you. Back at you. Don't be cheesy. I'm always cheesy. You married a cheesy man. The packing took a week. We sold the car, the beige sedan with the mismatched hubcaps, and used the money to ship the things we couldn't carry. My mother helped us sort through our clothes and our pots and pans, her hands moving with a quiet efficiency. You'll come visit, she said. It wasn't a question. We'll have a guest room, Zhou Chen promised. With a real bed, not a pull-out couch. Good. Because I'm going to come and cry on your shoulder and eat all your pasta. Mom, you don't even like pasta. I'll aren't to like it. For you. My father came over on the last day, ryeing a bottle of wine that was probably expensive and a card that was probably heartfelt. He didn't say much. He just shook Zhou Chen's hand and hugged me and told me to call every week. Every week, I promised. I'll send you pictures of the cathedrals. You'll be too busy to send pictures. I'll be too busy not to send pictures. That's what phones are for. Lily and Mark hosted a going-away dinner at their house, a beautiful place with a garden and a pool and a kitchen that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Lily's sioked, which was a disaster, but we ate it anyway, laughing at the burnt edges and the undersioked center. You need a siokbook, I told her.
A real one.
With pictures. I need a chef. That's what I need. You need to practice. I need you to stop being right all the time. Mark's family came, too. They were kind, the way doctors and their families often were, curious about Florence and the Vatican and the things Zhou Chen did. For the first time, he talked about his work. Not in detail, but in broad strokes, enough to make them lean in and ask questions. I'm just a mechanic, he said, shrugging. I fix things. That's all. You fix paintings that have been lost for 30 years, Mark pointed out. That's not just anything. It's the same principle. See what's broken, figure out how to put it back together. I did that on a rusty old sedan last Tuesday. You're impossible, I said, but I was grinning. Our last night in the apartment, we sat on the floor surrounded by boxes and ate takeout from the Chinese place down the street. The place where we'd had our first date, 2 days after he'd fixed my car for free, and I'd asked him out because I thought he was cute and he thought I was funny. Remember this? I asked, holding up a takeout container. General Tso's chicken. We split a plate, and you stole all the broccoli. I did not steal the broccoli. You offered. I offered because you made the puppy dog eyes. I don't have puppy dog eyes. You absolutely do. You have the most effective puppy dog eyes in the history of mariage. I threw a napkin at him, and he caught it one-handed, the same hands that had held 1,000 wrenches and one priceless painting. The same hands that had held me when I was kneeling on a marble floor, alone and humiliated and certain I'd made the biggest mistake of my life.
Thank you, I said, for that day.
For not letting me stay on my knees.
Thank you for not staying.
Even when it would have been easier. Nothing about you is easy, Zhou Chen. Nothing about you is easy either. That's why we're perfect together. He pulled me closer, and we sat there among the boxes, eating cold chicken and making plans for a city neither of us had ever called home. The flight to Florence was long. 13 hours, 2 movies, and a lot of bad airplane food. I slept on Zhou Chen's shoulder, and he didn't move the entire time, even though I knew his arm was falling asleep. When we landed, the sun was rising over the hills, painting the city in shades of gold and amber. The airport was small and chaotic, full of tourists and locals, and the particular energy of a place that had been beautiful for centuries. Zhou Chen's new colleagues met us at the arrival's gate. A woman named Sophia, tall and elegant, with gray-streaked hair and a warm smile. A man named Mateo, round and jovial, who hugged Zhou Chen like they were old friends. You must be Emily, Sophia said, her English accented but perfect.
He told us so much about you.
And he showed us pictures of your cats. We don't have cats, I said, confused. He showed us pictures of you. He called you his cats. Is that a joke? Zhou Chen was blushing, a deep red that spread up to his ears. They're not cats. They're just… I call her my little cat sometimes. It's a term of affection. Mateo burst out laughing. Your husband called you an animal and you might ride him anyway. The animal thing is recent, I said. I might have to reconsider. They drove us through the city, past the Duomo and the Ponte Vecchio, past streets so narrow they ba rely fit the car. Zhou Chen was quiet, sta ring out the window like he was seeing everything for the first time. It hasn't changed, he said softly. I was here 10 years ago, and it hasn't changed. Some things don't need to change, Sophia said. They just need to be preserved. He nodded, and I saw something settle in him, a piece I hadn't seen since the day of the baby shower. The workshop was in a building that used to be a monastery. Stone walls, arched windows, a courtyard with a fountain. Inside, it smelled like turpentine and old wood, and something floral I couldn't identify. The Madonna was there, in a room with controlled lighting and climate control. She was beautiful, the sorrowful Madonna, her face turned downward, her eyes sad and knowing. I stood in front of her and felt TRS prick at my eyes. You did this, I whispered. I helped. The restorers before me did most of the work. I just finished. You finished something that had been waiting 30 years. I turned to look at him. That's not small, Zhou Chen. He didn't answer. But he took my hand, and we stood there together, looking at a piece of art that had survived war and theft and decades of neglect, all because someone had read enough to put it back together. We found an APA meant NEA the workshop, a tiny place with a balcony that overlooked a courtyard road. The walls were painted in RM yellow, the floors were terracotta, and the kitchen was so small I couldn't open the oven and the fridge at the same time. It was perfect. In the evenings, we walked through the city, past the cathedrals and the markets and the little shops that sold hand-painted ceramics. Zhou Chen's Italian was rusty, but serviceable. Mine was non-existent, but I was learning, word by word, phrase by phrase. You're doing so well, he told me one night, after I'd successfully ordered a gelato in almost perfect Italian. I had a good teacher. You had a stubborn student. Same thing. He laughed, and we walked back to our APA meant under the STARS, through streets that had been walked for 1,000 years. My mother called every Sunday. She gave me updates on Grandma, who was running to walk again, and Lily, who was due in 2 months, and my father, who had STA route painting the house, which was a disaster but also, she said, kind of sweet. He's trying, she told me. He's really trying. Tell him I'm proud of him. I'll tell him. But he'll probably pretend he didn't hear it. That's his way of saying he heard it. On our 3-month anniversary, Zhou Chen took me to the workshop after hours. The Madonna was still there, glowing under the soft lights, and he'd set up a small table with candles and a bottle of wine. I wanted to show you what I've been working on, he said, a little nervous. You're showing me a candlelit dinner in a monastery. I'm impressed.
No.
I mean, yes, but also, he pulled out his phone, the same phone he'd used at the baby shower, and opened his photo gallery. I made you something. He handed me the phone. On the screen was a painting, not the Madonna, but something else. It was a woman with dark hair and bright eyes, sitting in a garden, surrounded by flowers. She was laughing, and there was a warmth to her face, a happiness that was unmistakable. That's me, I said. That's you. I painted it, over the past few months, in the evenings. I didn't want to tell you until it was done. Zhou Chen. Happy anniversary, Emily. And thank you for coming with me, for trusting me, for being the best thing that ever happened to a mechanic from a garage. I didn't say anything. I just kissed him, right there in the shadow of the Madonna, in a building that used to be a monastery, in a city that had been beautiful for 1,000 years. Sometimes, broken things get put back together better than they sta root. Sometimes they just need the right person with the right hands.
I knew that now.
I'd known it from the day I met a grease-stained man who fixed my car and asked me out for coffee. He was still fixing things. And I was still letting him. 2 years later, I stood in the same APA rent with the yellow walls and the terracotta floors, STA ring at a positive pregnancy test, and wondering if my hands would ever stop shaking. Emily, Zhou Chen's voice came from the kitchen, where he was making his famous Sunday pancakes. Are you coming to eat? The batter's getting cold. I didn't move. I couldn't. The little plastic stick in my hand felt like the heaviest thing I'd ever held. Emily, he ape read in the doorway, flour on his cheek, spatula in hand. What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. I held up the test. I've seen a plus sign. That's what I've seen. He STA read at it. Then at me. Then back at the test. The spatula slipped from his fingers and clattered to the floor. Are you serious? Very serious. His face broke into a grin so wide, I thought his cheeks might split. He crossed the room in 3 strides, grabbed me by the waist, and lifted me off the ground, spinning me in a circle while I shrieked and clutched the test like it was a holy relic. We're having a baby, he said, his voice cracking. Emily, we're having a baby. We're having a baby, I confirmed, laughing and crying at the same time. Put me down before you drop me. He set me down refully, like I was made of glass, and pressed his forehead against mine. I'm going to be a dad. You're going to be a dad. I'm going to be a terrible dad. I don't know anything about babies. I can fix a transmission, but I can't change a diaper. You'll Leah Aaron. I'll Leah Aaron. We'll Leah Aaron together. He kissed me, soft and sweet, and I tasted the maple syrup on his lips. The next few months were a blur of doctor's appointments and prenatal vitamins and my mother's long-distance panic. She called every day, sometimes twice, asking about my cravings and my sleep and whether I was taking my iron supplements. Mom, I'm fine. I told her for the 100th time. The doctor says everything is normal. Normal is not good enough. I want excellent. I want spectacle AR. I want my grandchild to be the healthiest baby in all of Italy. Florence is not a country, Mom. Don't argue semantics with a soon-to-be grandmother. Lily was due a month before me, and she'd already had her baby, a beautiful girl with Arca's blue eyes and Lily's stubborn chin. She called me from a hospital, exhausted but euphoric. It's the most amazing thing in the world, she said. And also the most terrifying. I cried for 3 hours because she sneezed. She sneezed, and I thought she was choking. The nurse had to explain that babies sneeze. It's a thing they do. Lily, you're a doctor's wife. You should know these things. I know human anatomy. I don't know tiny human anatomy. It's completely different. My grandmother had made a remarkable recovery. She could walk with a cane now, and her speech was almost normal, though she still struggled with certain words. She'd STA root calling me every week, and our conversations were stilted but real. Are you eating enough? She asked. You need to eat for 2. 3. The baby and you and your husband. I'm eating plenty, Grandma.
Good.
I want to see pictures. Lots of pictures. Of the belly, of the room, of everything. I'll send them. You'd better. Or I'll come over there myself. I can still fly, you know. I know, Grandma. I know. The pregnancy was easier than I'd expected. No morning sickness, no strange cravings, just a steady, growing weight that reminded me with every kick and flutter that I wasn't alone anymore. Zhou Chen was perfect. He came to every appointment, held my hand during every ultrasound, read every baby book he could get his hands on. He painted the nursery himself, a soft green with white trim, and he built the crib from a kit, swearing under his breath when the instructions were in Italian. This says repeat step 4, he complained. What does that mean? Step 4 was a disaster. Just try it again. You're good at fixing things, remember. That's different. Wood is wood. It doesn't move. A baby moves. A baby cries. A baby demands things. And you'll figure it out. Just like you figured out the Madonna. I didn't have to change the Madonna's diaper. I laughed so hard I choke. The baby came on a Thursday, 3 weeks EARLY, and entirely unannounced. I was at the workshop, watching Zhou Chen work on a small restoration project, when I felt the first contraction. Zhou Chen, I said calmly, because I'd read that staying calm was important. I think I'm in labor. He dropped his brush. It splattered across the table, leaving a trail of blue paint. Now, he asked. Right now? Yes, right now. The baby doesn't have a schedule. He grabbed my bag, which had been packed and waiting by the door for the past 3 weeks, and helped me to the CAR. The drive to the hospital was the longest 12 minutes of my life, but he held my hand the whole time, repeating calming things that I couldn't actually hear. You're doing great, he said. Breathe. Just breathe. I am breathing. That's good. That's really good. Keep doing that. The hospital staff were efficient and kind, settling me into a room and hooking me up to monitors that beeped in reassuring rhythms. Zhou Chen paced the length of the room like a caged animal, his hands twitching at his sides. Sit down, I told him. You're making me nervous. I can't sit.
I don't know how to sit.
I've never sat in my life. You sat on the floor of the baby shower. Remember? You knelt down next to me. That was different. That was voluntary re-kneeling. This is different. The labor lasted 14 hours. 14 hours of contractions and breathing and the kind of pain I'd never imagined possible. Zhou Chen never left my side. He held my hand through the worst of it. Even when I squeezed so hard I left bruises. I'm sorry, I said, after a particularly bad contraction. Don't apologize. You can break my hand if it helps. It doesn't help. Then don't break my hand. But you can if you want to. The baby was born at 3 in the morning, a girl with a full head of dark hair and the loudest lungs in the entire maternity ward. The doctor placed her on my chest, and squirming, and I felt something shift in my heart, a tectonic movement I hadn't seen coming. She's beautiful, Zhou Chen said, and his voice broke on the last word. She's so beautiful. She looks like you, I said. The same nose. Poor kid. She's going to be perfect. The first few weeks were exactly as Lily had described. Terrifying and wonderful and completely exhausting. The baby, who we named Elena, slept in 2-hour increments and ate like she was training for a competition and cried with a volume that seemed impossible for something so small. Zhou Chen took the first month off from work, and I watched him transform from a nervous wreck into a competent father. He learned to change diapers, to burp her, to rock her to sleep with a patience I hadn't known he possessed. You're good at this, I said, watching him pace the nursery at midnight, Elena cradled against his chest. Practice. Just like everything else. You've been practicing for 3 weeks. I'm a fast learner. He stopped pacing and looked down at our daughter, her tiny face peaceful in sleep. I used to think I was meant to fix things. Paintings, CARS, whatever needed mending. But this is different. I didn't fix her. She was already perfect. I just get to take care of her. I crossed the room and put my arm around him, my head resting on his shoulder. That's what parenting is. Taking care of perfect things. Deep, he said. Shut up. I love you. I love you too. When Elena was 6 months old, my mother came to visit. She brought 3 suitcases, 2 gifts from my grandmother, and a list of demands that took her 2 hours to recite. The baby needs fresh air, she said. You're not taking her outside enough. Mom, we live in Florence. We take her outside every day. Not enough. I read that babies need 60 minutes of outdoor time. You're only giving her 45. How do you know I'm only giving her 45? I have a calculator. In my head. I do the math. Zhou Chen took my mother to all the tourist spots, because he was a saint and she was a force of nature. They visited the Duomo and the Ponte Vecchio and the Galleria dell'Accademia, and my mother took 1,000 photos that she would later organize into albums and send to every relative she knew. She's happy, she said, watching Zhou Chen push Elena's stroller through the piazza. You're all happy. Weary. I was so afraid for you, Emily. When you ride him, when you moved here. I thought you were making a mistake. And I didn't say anything because I was afraid, and I let your grandmother do the same for me. I put my hand over hers. It's okay, Mom. I know you were SCA red. I'm not SCA red anymore. I see how he looks at you. I see how he looks at her. She nodded Tawa Ardi Elena, who was babbling happily at the sky. You chose well. I know. I always knew. Insufferable child. I Leah rented it from you. She laughed, and we watched Zhou Chen lift Elena out of her stroller, holding her up to see the pigeons. The baby shrieked with delight, and the sound echoed off the ancient stone walls like music. That night, after my mother had gone to bed and Elena was asleep in her crib, Zhou Chen and I sat on the balcony, looking out at the city lights. What are you thinking? He asked. I'm thinking about how weird this is. How we ended up here. You, the Vatican master restorer. Me, the girl who married a mechanic. I'm still a mechanic. I know. That's what I love about you. Just the mechanic party. No. The fixing party. The way you see something broken and you don't give up on it. You don't throw it away. You take your time and you figure out how to make it whole again. He was quiet for a moment, then he reached over and took my hand. You taught me that. Did not. Did so. I was always good at fixing things. But you taught me that some things don't need to be fixed. They just need to be seen. I leaned into him, feeling the steady beat of his heart against my shoulder. That's the cheesiest thing you've ever said. It was a good line. I've been saving it. Saving it for what? For tonight. For this moment. For the first night of the rest of our lives. Are we going to keep being cheesy forever? Forever is a long time.
But yes.
We stayed on the balcony until the STARS came out, talking about nothing and everything, the way we'd done on 100 other nights in 100 other places. And when Elena cried out in the nursery, we went to her together, two people who'd STA rooted as strangers and ended as everything. Somewhere in a hospital across the ocean, my grandmother was sleeping. My father was painting the house. Lily was nursing her own baby, and Mark was doctoring, and the world was spinning on. But here, on this balcony, in this city, we had found our place. And that was enough.